113 centimetres tall.
You're 113 centimetres tall or so.
I think every child has stood with their back against this wall. You know the one. It's the one where you press your heels against the skirting board, lift up your chest and crane your forehead as high as it's ever been, stretching every sinew and bone trying to eke out that last centimetre. Meanwhile, there's a parent dutifully placing a pencil atop your head and marking the most recent growth spurt, or lack thereof. It's the wall where the child wheels around in excited anticipation at their new record height, while the parent looks at the passage of time marked in dashed pencil. My name's Michael Murphy, and this is episode 2 of Vacilando, a Purpose Topography Project podcast. I usually see the passage of time from left to right across my page, but as an Arabic speaker, you may arrange from right to left. There are many other cultures that reject the idea of a linear time altogether and see it as cyclical. If you're from the Cook Tire, from the western part of Cape York, remarkably to me, you might see time from east to west and rather lock your conception of time to the landscape rather than to human figures. And if you're standing where I am right now, in the foyer of St Andrew's School, Walkerville, waiting to meet our first principal, Luke Ritchie, you might see time going from the ground to the sky and considering the limitless potential of the future. Because I'm looking at a timeline that has 1850 near my toes and 2020 just above my eyes. I see 175 years of growth in history. As I greet Luke, I ask him if this vertical timeline is holding a symbol for growth and the future.
Well, it is now. That's a really nice way of thinking about it. For me, regardless of the school or community, I think it's really important to have clear reference points to the past, clear visuals. And so it's so important to have that vertical timeline, but next to a beautiful learning space where children are constructing, doing. So you walk in and you hear hammers going bang, bang, bang. You hear kids talking about projects they're collaborating on with adults in our community. So yes, having the history alongside the modern approach to teaching and learning for me is critically important.
Luke is an educational leader with experiences across Australia, including 2 principalships in Adelaide. Luke is one of our principals who's joining us on our Vacilando adventure. I lean forward and ask Luke, how are you going?
Really well, really well. The year's started positively. I'm living, as we've spoken about before, in joyful chaos with 4 young kids and a beautiful wife and running an independent school. But we're happy, we're healthy, and we've got lots to be grateful for.
And it's a big 175 birthday year.
Huge.
So there's always a smile on your face, but there almost always has to be a smile when you're having a celebration. You know, you can't be down. You can't be down
in a 175th year.
Yeah, there's a big smile is always going to be there. But you know, how's it going in that sense? Is it all at that level? Are there other things happening?
Oh, look, to be involved in leading a school in its 175th year, it's actually something that I never thought I'd have the opportunity to do. I didn't set out to do it. And I find myself here at St Andrew's in this most beautiful community in the principal seat in the 175th year. And for me, this default is gratitude and honouring the 175 years that have been while we think excitedly about the next chapter and the next 175. It's one of the words that we keep talking about as an executive leadership team is being a custodian. So for us, we feel really honoured to be the custodians in this 175th year.
My conversation with Luke already feels cyclical as we visit and revisit history to look forward to the future, typified by the space that we meet in. The building where the timeline sits feels like a contemporary learning space and workplace with objects and artefacts of history displayed proudly.
So we're in the Tarkari building, which was opened a couple of years ago. I can take no credit for the design, the implementation. It opened the week that I arrived, so I feel very fortunate and grateful for all those that put in the hard work before my arrival. It is just the most diverse and gorgeous welcoming space for me. You've got Bart the snake. I don't know if you saw Bart as you walked in.
I did want to.
Maybe you avoided Bart.
I did see Bart. No, I saw Bart.
So we got Bart the snake. For me, as you know, I love student agency and students having voice and choice in their communities. And so Bart the snake is a beautiful reflection on that. Some boys, they said, we want Bart, we want a snake. We can't have one at home. Can we have one at school? And we had this backwards and forth over 6 months. Anyway, long story short, Bart arrived, and Bart's an important part of our school. So you got the history story sitting alongside Bart the snake. It's great.
So I'm looking across at you. I can see on your left lapel, there's the 175 pin. There's a very smart St. Andrew's tartan. I want to go back before this year starts though, over summer. How was it? What did you do in summer?
Summer is the one time in the year as a principal that we can actually stop. So I'll always take at least 3 weeks and reset, reflect a lot on the year that's been, but actually try and forget about school for a bit. I think that's really healthy because during the year, even when I'm on holidays, schools are all consuming places in a really lovely way. It's the one time of the year we can stop. So my family and I, we had a few milestones that we celebrated and we actually went over to Fiji and we had a wonderful time on the beach and snorkeling and just playing Uno and playing other games, just chilling out. So for me, I'm really intentional and never feel guilty about having a decent break at Christmas.
I remember, I think I emailed you during the break and got a out of office reply that, everyone has an out of office reply.
Yeah.
But yours was a delightfully succinct, I am not going to get back to you until something like the 25th of Jan. That wasn't 3 weeks. That was a proper, I am not getting back to you.
Yeah. And that's really intentional because I'm trying to model for people at St. Andrews and more broader in school leadership that it's okay. Because I think sometimes we'll get into this headset. It's this mentality that, woe is me, I can't have a break. Well, actually you can. You should. Because if you want to be the best version of yourself as a husband, as a dad, as a leader, as an educator, as a communicator, you have to stop, reset and get on with it.
Absolutely. And if that means a day off, if that means a week off.
Correct.
Because sometimes we also think that, everyone needs to have a 3 week.
Yeah.
But some people, as I said, it's a day. I
Yeah.
think that's a little bit unhealthy to say I've had 1 day across the whole year. But
hey, if you can reset in a day, then good luck to you.
Yeah. There's some impressive AI working back there.
Yeah.
Luke's summer reveals the story of connection, of filling his cup with the people nearest and dearest to him, and making time to be present and be his best self. He wants to be his best self so that his loved ones and his community can thrive.
What I know wholeheartedly is that this place is built on a strong sense of belonging. When we engaged stakeholders for our new strategic plan, that was the number one word that kept coming up. We feel such a strong sense of belonging and connection with St. Andrews. From our time here, from our kids' time here, this is a school where we have multi-generations rolling through because Dad went here, because Mum went here, because Grandma went here, I'm going here. And I think that's really special and unique and lovely.
And what about yourself? What do you know about yourself 2 and a bit years into being here?
That's a really good question. What do I know about myself in this context? I, leading a different school through COVID, really learnt to understand that I can't be everything to everyone. So when I came into this context, that was something that was front of mind. I can't be everything to everyone. Can I try my hardest in everything that I do? Can I contribute? Can I question? Can I be a supportive colleague and a supportive principal? Absolutely. But I'm not going to win all the time, and I'm not going to be everything to everyone. That's one of the things that I think was front of mind for me when I started this role, and is front of mind today as well.
And is that new in an awareness, or has that been a long-term Luke Ritchie, I know that I can't be everything to everyone?
Oh, gee, you're really getting deep. I like this. I think I'm a people pleaser. That's my default. I want everyone to feel valued and known and happy, ultimately. But I think the older I get, I'm now about to tick over to 43, I realise that although I can strive for that, I'm not going to achieve that. And my decision-making as a principal, as a leader, as a governor in a not-for-profit, as a husband, as a dad, I need to go forward, gather as much evidence as I can and make the best on-judgment decisions that I can make and be comfortable in that space. So that's what I always try to do.
I've come to the Grand Gillingham Hall, which is bathed in morning sunshine. Behind the cloistered wings are the honour boards and the portraits of Ruth Watts, Jean Harris, and Mary Patchell, who are but a few of the exceptional women who have led Methodist Ladies College and Annesley College since 1902. What makes these portraits so special is not their perfect representation of the subject, but the way they capture feeling, emotion, depth, or story. The portraits in Gillingham Hall represent the history of the school that Luke reveres, and they lead to one portrait that is more brightly coloured, below which there is an inscription. Luke Ritchie, 2nd Principal of Annesley Junior School, 2017 to 2022. Portrait by Lucy, Ivy and Elise. Year 3, 2022.
I love that portrait. It's truly special because it reflected a chapter of immense growth for that organisation, that community, but for myself as a leader as well. I think I'm exactly the same person as I was at Annesley here at St Andrews. My core values are the same. My approach is very similar. I look a bit different in what I wear. I've got the white shirt, the navy suit, the tartan, as you mentioned, and I wear this every day. But that's because that's a part of being in this community. That's what's expected here. And I even put the tie on when I have to as well.
I wasn't sure if you took it off just to see me.
No, my thinking around the tie is if our students are wearing their ties, I'll wear my tie as well. I think that's fair. But I also think it's fair if they're not wearing theirs, I can take mine off.
Fair enough.
So I think, absolutely the same person, same passion, same energy, but it's a different community. And so we approach things a bit differently. And that's the same as if I went to a different school. I'm sure I'd have to then, you kind of merge yourself to fit your context. And I think that's an important part of effective leadership is understanding your context and not wavering from your ideals or your approach, but I guess personalising it.
Today when I stand in Gillingham Hall, hundreds of students from all walks of life are excitedly awaiting the start of their weekly assembly. But not so long ago, this hall was quite quiet.
Credit to Sherilyn Skews, who was, I guess effectively you'd call her the foundational principal for 5 years in that next chapter, with Bruce Spangler as chair. They did some real heavy lifting over a 5-year period. When I arrived, I think we had an enrolment of 63 kids in the school. I'd come from Canberra Girls Grammar, where it was 1,600 students. And I remember vividly my first assembly and walking into that grand Gillingham Hall. It's like Hogwarts, walking in. And I kid you not, it was 2 rows of kids in the hall.
Luke deeply values the connections and collaboration with some experienced people through the growth of Annesley Junior School. As an adventurer, I asked Luke to imagine packing his backpack, filling his bottles, getting his maps and guides together, and planning the trek that was his principalship at the school.
Love that. When I started at Annesley, I was given the history book. So the North Star was, why was Annesley College, or MLC, why was it originally created? And it was very clear in the founding documents that the school was created to buck the trend of traditional education, to empower young women to live a full and impactful life in the non-traditional sense of a school. So there's your North Star. So every time I could reference that book, I did. I actually carried that book around the school most days. It was dog-eared and it had Post-it notes and my notes scribbled all through it. So effectively I'd preach from that book whenever I could. That gave us the end point of where we were going. Then I looked for some expert external partners to walk the path with me, to challenge me, to question me, to equip me, to point me in the right direction. One of them being distinguished Professor Yong Zhao, who I'm still very close with today. He was integral on that path in having fun, in when times got tough, digging in with me, and encouraging me, pointing me to pieces of research that we could embed in our practice, taking me and introducing me to amazing people around the world, be that face-to-face or virtually, connecting with people like Luca Parry, Learning Future, and just hearing their thoughts and spending a lot of time listening. Those people were key and critical. The other people were the team that we appointed. I think in Bruce Spangler's reflection, Bruce Spangler AM, a man that I love, admire, respect, He was chair. He's just finished up after nearly 12 years, I think, as chair of that council. He wrote in his letter to the community when I finished up that one of the things that he valued was that we put children at the heart of appointing over, I think he said 60 staff during that 6-year period.
In 2019, I went to a conference called EduChange, and one of the icebreakers to get to know the people around you was to share something innovative that you'd seen a school do recently. I remember vividly standing there in Federation Square in Melbourne and telling the person opposite me about a little school in Adelaide who were recruiting new teachers. They were asking applicants to submit a short video explaining what their strengths were and informing those applicants that students would be watching the videos and would be a part of the shortlisting process.
And we did. We had children front and centre, students helping us in those decision-making moments, but being genuine partners on the journey. Now, that's typically not what happens in independent schools, in government schools. You know, my experience has been that, yes, there's an SRC, but they're almost a bit of a toothless tiger, whereas one of the points of difference on that bushwalk was that they were right at the front leading with the host of the bushwalk. They were having input into big strategic decisions. They were having input into budgets, designs of buildings in a really meeting and meaningful way.
So they weren't, if we think of that analogy, there's a fork in the road and you know both paths, exactly where they're going to end up and they're both fine.
Yep.
And that we don't then say to the kids, which one do you want to take, left or right? It was very much like
there is the table.
Yeah, there is an uncharted bush in front of us.
Yeah.
Which vague direction are we going here, right?
Yeah. The staff were amazing on that journey. And credit to, Jo, who's principal there. She was sitting at my right hand the whole journey. And I admire Jo immensely and her leadership and was amazed and so happy when she was appointed principal after me. Jo, the broader team, that middle tier of leadership who were really open as well and courageous in their leadership, who a number of them have now gone on to bigger and more influential leadership roles in other bigger independent schools. And I love that as well. I think that's a sign of a really healthy culture when your leaders are developing themselves and then they're going and leading elsewhere. I mean, there were lots of people that I could talk about personally who were on board and key part of that journey, and they were all really wonderful. There were some challenging moments, don't get me wrong. So, when you see a little hill that you got to climb and you just go, oh, is there an easier way around this? Can I walk around? No, there's not. You have to climb that. I had to put strategies around myself to look after myself and my own well-being because in any school, in any business, in any not-for-profit, there's really challenging moments as a leader. So you've got to be self-aware enough to identify when they're coming up and put the protections around yourself so that you can climb that mountain.
Luke reflects on the community of adventurers around them and how many people wanted to get involved with the journey too.
And our recruitment blew up. I mean, that was one of the amazing things on that journey. And we were recruiting for, I can't remember what role it was, but we got quite a small pool. As soon as we started running down that path, we weren't just walking, we were running down that trail. 6 months in, I saw a spike in the amount of applications we get for a role. 12 months in, they blew up. And so we had our pick of teachers. And that was a really wonderful moment for us to go, all right, this is resonating. At the same time, our enrollment blew up as well. It was probably a trail run, not a hike.
Yeah. Okay.
It was probably a trail run, Michael.
Yeah. So now we're trail running and we move from the backpack to the camelback.
Yeah.
What did that really have in it?
Yeah.
Because I know that you were fueled on lattes at that point. But what was the other fuel that kept you going through that? Luke smiles broadly, settles his shoulders, and talks of his love and companionship with his wife, Naomi.
Naomi is just the most amazing person and the most amazing mum and an incredible partner on life's journey. And so one of the gels in my camelback was Naomi, and her being an encourager, a sounding board, a challenger, where she'd say, I think, maybe it is time for you to take a day and to look after yourself.
As we cycle back to Luke's current adventures, we reflect on how he manages his well-being and that of those around him as he embraces new challenges.
I am a really big believer in having regular leave. Now, I know not everyone's in that boat, but I am. And so for me, every holidays, I will take a week. Now, even if during that week I'm thinking about school, I'm not on site, And typically we go away. So we go camping, or we might just go down to Victor Harbour and get an Airbnb. The routine's different. The rhythm's different. Even if I have to pull my laptop out when the kids have gone to bed at night and do some work, that's fine. But it's actually being pretty protective of having a regular break every holiday.
I think, you and I are very similar in that regard, in the sense that a break is super important. But if on that break we come to, if there's an hour I'm thinking really well, it's actually for everyone's best interest that I think hard for that hour about work, because my next 2 days are going to be way clearer for that hour. And I think we kind of get this idea that we have to take breaks the way other people tell us to take breaks, as opposed to, actually, this is a Ritchie break.
Yeah.
This is, patented, branded. This is how I do it.
Exactly. And you can do it every day.
Yeah.
So for me, part of my rhythm now and this year, the deputy principal here at St. Andrews and we go to the gym together 2 mornings a week. My alarm goes off just after 5. I'm at the gym at 6, and we're on the treadmill next to each other, being active and present, looking after our well-being, but we have some work talk. And that's really a healthy time for us to be doing it. Then we go our separate ways for 45 minutes, and I lift weights, which aren't very big weights, but, they're getting there, and he does his thing. And then we come back afterwards and we go and have an iced long black. Got rid of the latte, so we have an iced long black. And then we spend another 10 minutes talking about what's coming up in the day, the week, the month ahead. And so for me, it's those little micro breaks in a day as well, where the gym, you could say, well, I'm not going to think about work at the gym. Well, actually, I have great thoughts about work at the gym. And that's okay. I'm also looking after my well-being at the same time.
And the thing is, if you mandated your staff to start the day with a well-being treadmill and chat with their teaching partner, we're probably pushing into work-life balance
big time
issues there.
Everyone does it their own way.
Right.
And that's okay. Yeah. And I think that the right to disconnect is new legislation this year, and everyone has the right to disconnect, but everyone does it differently. And it's been a shift for me, because I used to say to people as a leader, don't check your emails outside of hours. Actually, if you want to, and it makes you feel better about life, whatever the rhythm is in your world, to check your emails at 10 p.m. before you go to bed because you're going to sleep well for 8 hours, do it. Exactly. But I'm not going to mandate that for you.
And then, I know for you, that's then a second layer, which is if you feel compelled to check your email at 10 o'clock to help you sleep, there's probably something else about the content of your emails that we need to work on collectively as an organization, right? And
we walk along the path, with you. I don't have my work emails on my mobile phone. I know a lot of people do, and that's their call. I don't, because in order for me to open up my laptop, put my password in, open up emails during that process, like making a coffee in the morning,
the ritual
I'm
of
preparing myself for my email. I don't want to pick up my phone and have a notification that says, you got an email from work at 10 p.m. at night, because that doesn't work for my rhythm. So I think there are some hard no's when it comes to work-life balance for people. But I think that conversation's important in that space as well.
One of the questions that Paul Kidson and I spoke about in the first episode of Vacilando was trying to get to understand how our principals saw themselves to fit their current school. I want to take you back to a period of transition for both of us. Mm-hmm. I think both of us were between our most recent kind of areas of work, and we were texting, and one of the messages you wrote to me was, who would work in an independent school in Adelaide, hey? And I think this was there was a particular prominent period where, that they're all prominent in the advertisers' dig at independent schools, and then fighting in government schools, and then NAPLAN schools and things like that. But as someone who's very proudly leading an independent school, you do want to be here, and I know you do. So why did you want to work here?
Look, independent schools, all schools, actually, I'll take a step back. Government schools, Catholic schools, independent schools, little networks of homeschooling communities, they are all complex organisations. I think, and my primary experience has been in the not-for-profit sector, but then also in independent schools. They are genuinely dynamic, ever-changing, complex places. So when I walk into this school, St. Andrews, and what an honour it is to be the principal here, I love it. I feel so grateful. I walk in and every day is truly different. So this morning, for example, what is the time? It's 20 past 10. Did my gym session this morning, had a wellbeing meeting with another staff member and some parents at 8. But prior to that, I'd done 45 minutes of admin, prepping for the day, reviewing risk assessments, ensuring that a run sheet was ready for a major event that's coming up, checking in on some filming that we've got happening today across the site with Lucy Corns and her team for our 175th, rolled into my 8 o'clock meeting. That went for half an hour or so. So, pastoral care type of meeting. Had a check-in with my wonderful EA Joe, who keeps my life ticking beautifully at work, about the day ahead. And then had to review for an executive meeting coming up. I'm going to Sydney on Thursday to meet another independent school principal to look at what they're doing around social media and students. So I had to send some communication there. I had a phone call that I had to make to another head of a big independent school in Adelaide around scholarships and a partnership. So that all happened before 9 o'clock. And then I met with my assistant principal, who's responsible for teaching and learning E to 6, and we were talking about some of the things on her agenda. Then I had blah, 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 I could go on. And then we're sitting down and chatting. It's only 20 past 10.
It's fascinating to consider the elastic nature of time in a school. As a parent and child walk into the school grounds hand in hand, the parent may want that moment to last a lifetime, while the student wants to burst across the yard to see their friends. Luke describes the complex set of arrangements that greets his every minute.
That's typical of a day for a principal in an independent school, any school, but my experience is independent. So they're truly dynamic and truly ever-changing. You've got to be, you're effectively, I think about it as like being a mayor of a small community.
Sure, okay.
Because I'm having to be all over every dollar that's spent here, not in a micromanagement way, but from an accountability perspective to the chair of the finance committee, the chair of the board. I'm liaising with those key governors on a very regular basis. I'm working with my incredible business director around strategy and our team that typically would be called the non-teaching team, which is a big part of the unseen in a school. We don't call them the non-teaching team. We call them the professional services team. That's been a really lovely shift here because non-teaching has a negative connotation. Well, actually, you're just as important. We are a big community and we need each other. So working with her on budgets, we got $16.5, $17 million annual turnover here. So you're talking big bickies and great accountability around that. You've got all the legislation that you have to be aware of. I touched on the right to disconnect earlier. That's one tiny piece of legislation in comparison to everything around the requirements for running vacation care or working with the co-directors in our early learning centre. We're looking at the potential of expanding because we've got great enrolment demand. So, you're working with Swanbury Penglaze around design for buildings, and all this can happen in one day.
Well, before 10 a.m.
Before 10 a.m. It's a truly dynamic place, which is great. There's diversity. You have to be across so many different types of thinking in a day.
An emerging educational leader may say that this sounds dynamic and exciting, but other leaders may notice that in the day up until this point, Luke hasn't actually mentioned interacting with a student.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't talk about teaching and learning at all, did I?
You did meet with your ELC.
I met with the Mary Ann, who does an amazing job of leading that. But you become a leader of leaders. Yeah. And that's the shift, is going, other than me, there's 13 other key leaders in this organisation.
By title.
And so my mandate is to walk the path with them and ensure that they have got a sounding board in me, that we're resourcing what they need to deliver their KPIs and their projects. And so it's a big shift from saying, all right, I started as a teacher and I love teaching. For me, the most joyful moment in my day is if I get to go up and spend some time with our year sixes talking about leadership or going to the ELC and eating butter chicken with our 3-year-old. Love those moments. But they become less and less in the life of a principal. They become more, depending on how you structure your week, they can become more ad hoc moments with kids and young people where it's high fives in the playground. You stop and you have a chat. I love getting out and about into classrooms and connecting with teachers, but when you're doing all those other things, it actually becomes less often. When you start out as a teacher, because you love working in teams and with students, and then you find yourself in this role, it is a change.
Recently, I've noticed a rebranding of the principal role, in particular within the independent sector, to that of CEO. However, Luke refers to himself as being like a mayor of a small village. But these roles are vastly different within a council, and I wonder if this distinction is deliberate.
For me, it is deliberate. You could easily say that the role of principal in an independent school is the chief executive officer. It is, ultimately. But for me, I see the mayor as being, and I think of Sir Jones here in Walkerville, she is the heart and soul of the town of Walkerville as far as the leader pointing to where it's going. And she obviously works very closely with her CEO to implement. But for me, it's about being... One of the things I've really worked hard on is communication skills and public communication skills. And I think when I reflect upon the role of a mayor, their role is to be upfront, casting the vision, encouraging, ensuring that there's clear communication, saying this is where we're going, this is what we're about, and this is why we're going there. And so for me, I've worked really hard in the last 5 years to ensure that I'm trying to be the best version of myself when it comes to casting that vision and telling the story of where we're going and why we're going there and bringing people on that journey.
Luke's vision clearly expresses a view of empowerment of young people that we often call agency. I wonder, though, if the expression of that agency actually reorientates the vision in another direction, how Luke would navigate that landscape.
Some of the non-negotiables for us are that we are proud to be an Anglican school.
Yeah.
We're proud to be a Christian school in the Anglican tradition. We've got great relationships with the other Anglican schools. So if a group of students said, we don't want to be an Anglican school anymore, well, I'd say, well, actually, let's have a chat about that. What are your reasons behind that? But this is why we're an Anglican school, and this is why we're going to stay an Anglican school. So there'd be a conversation. There'd be some active listening from my part and from their part. And there'd be some clear reasoning as to why a change couldn't happen. We value explicit teaching here. We value rigour in academics. We also value students having voice and choice and agency. So we talk about having both and. So it's that, you are going to learn mathematical skills. You're going to develop them. You're going to be stretched. You're going to be pushed. And then you're going to apply them in a meaningful way. And we're going to create some great adventures for you to go and use those skills. Because ultimately, when it comes to inquiry-based learning or agency, you can't just say to a young person, all right, go. The purpose of a school is to teach and to nurture and to create experiences where children and young people can use their skills in a meaningful way to contribute. Simply put, I don't think a school can... my flavour of education involves some form of structure and explicit teaching. It has to be that. But it also has to be creative and dynamic and allow students to use those skills in a way and have voice and choice in what they do. So it's got to be both.
And if the students are kind of present a really compelling argument against that, because certainly if I spoke to Yong, I imagine he isn't in the same spot as you are on that part of the journey. Yeah. So if they kind of they contacted him, they've been having all these fora with him, they come back and they really push against it.
Yeah.
What does that look like? I'm not saying what would you do, but what?
Well, I think that's actually really healthy.
Okay.
Because there's room for conversation and debate and understanding, and healthy communities are built upon that. So there's got to be a space for people to have a voice that's not in alignment with the mainstream or the majority. So I would hope that a student here could raise anything with me and be meted with respectful dialogue. But there are some things where you'd say, well, actually, this is what we stand for. So, and obviously you wouldn't have this conversation with a student, but broader speaking, if there's not alignment between what you're hoping for or hoping to receive in this community, then there are beautiful other communities elsewhere that do things differently. And that's the great thing about the independent school sector is there's choice. And we've got this most exceptional range of schools in South Australia, but across the nation that are all committed to the same things. They want their students and their communities to grow and develop and contribute, but they go about it in a different way.
In Icelandic storytelling, particularly in the sagas, honour is seen as a finite resource, and gaining it often means taking it from someone else. Agency doesn't work like that. Like if I give you some agency, it doesn't mean I get less of it, right? Or
it expands the agency.
And so your view here is very much of we've got student agency, we've got community agency, parent, staff, yourself as a professional as well, right?
Absolutely. And the board are a key part in this conversation. I meet fortnightly with the chair of our school board. Now, she's incredibly dynamic professional and volunteers in that role and gives up her time because she's passionate about quality schooling and education. And so we meet fortnightly. We're in constant communication, texts, emails. We have a platform of no surprises. And that's maybe a space that aspiring principals aren't even aware of, that whole tier of, it's almost unseen, governance in independent schools in particular is massive. And it's a big percentage of my role, preparing presentations for board, meeting with board members, talking about strategy and our strategic plan in particular, and ensuring that we're meeting all of our requirements, but being bold about the future as well, that we're spending money wisely. So that's unseen quite often.
Definitely.
In independent schools.
I think outside of that as well, certainly I think a school governing council in the public sector, I think that surprises people that there is, there is a group of people who do have decision-making responsibilities at a school beyond the new principal.
Absolutely. And they are critically important in that journey and process.
I can see, and you've referenced it, I can see a strategic intent over your left shoulder. There's 1,013 words in that strategic intent.
Wow.
It's not a lengthy kind of tome of a strat plan, but it's also not 5 or 6 words for the sake of saying them. What does your strategic intent mean to you as principal?
It gives us 4 very clear areas to focus our attention on. It's up here on my wall as well. People, well-being, connections, and growth. And we talk about nurturing greatness and how that starts by lowering our gaze. We need to remember that we are a school. Yes, there's a business that sits alongside the school, but we are a school, and we are about those 4 pillars and engaging our whole community of stakeholders, old scholars, current parents, former staff like Dorian Black and David Walno, who are legends of this place in the story of St. Andrew's School. So what it does is it doesn't strangle us with too much detail. And that's really important, I think, when you are creating a strategic intent, a strategic plan, that there's still freedom and flexibility in movement. It should be a document like this one is for us that inspires action, but within some really clear boundaries. Again, I come back to what we were talking about earlier, that you can't be everything to everyone. And we feel really comfortable in that within our strategic intent. We are not going to be the best agricultural school in South Australia. We're never going to do that, but we don't actually want to.
And
for
that's
us.
okay.
And that's okay. That's great. It's actually quite freeing because we don't need to think about buying a farm and doing that.
The livestock manual
doesn't have to, but we need an SOP for our snake.
I was going to say, but then there's that thing of like, as soon as we'd love to have some chickens, all of a sudden you're an egg producer. All
Big
of a
time.
sudden
Everything changes.
So there's a trick for young principals.
Yes.
Is as soon as you bring an animal on site,
everything changes. Everything. Well, actually, with Marianne this morning, we were talking about SOPs for tadpoles of all things. So for us, it just drives with clarity where we're going, but it doesn't over-regulate the steps to get towards 2030.
We're going to meet again in about 10 weeks' time.
Great.
And then 20 weeks and then 30 weeks, because we're going to catch up across the year, because I know this smile is not going to go anywhere and their sense of optimism for year 175, but a year changes for everyone in a school. For the young person who is in year 6 who are now thinking about their high school versus the one who just started reception and they're just starting to find their feet in reception here. But all of a sudden, when we chat in term 4, they'll be itching for year 1. They'll be readers. some kids' identity will move from learner to author in this time,
Yeah.
right? And your identity is going to change. And that's what I really want to kind of see and be a part of as well.
Mm.
But why do you want to be involved? Why did you say, yes, I'll be involved in this project?
I've been asked to do a lot of different podcasts, and typically I say no. That's because I don't want it to detract from my work, ultimately, because my diary is very full with lots of meaningful things. This one for me was different because I know that there is what you could call a crisis in education in Australia, where quality professionals are not attracted to leading schools. It's a smaller pool, and I understand that. So I wanted to be able to share with you a bit of my story on one leader on a journey, and I'm one person, and I'm a flawed human who's having a red hot crack. But I wanted to give aspiring leaders an insight into my world as a principal in the hope that it encourages them to explore it.
Thank you for coming with me to meet Luke Ritchie, the proud principal of St. Andrew's School, Walkerville. And thank you to Luke for generously sharing yourself, your time, and your community with us. The last words on the inscription below Luke's portrait in Gillingham Hall were, "Luke believed that children are capable now, not just in the future." My name is Michael Murphy, and this is episode 2 of Vacilando, a Purpose Topography Project podcast.